Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. We're here today with another daily Cabral concept. This is our Training Thursday edition of the show, where we are going to be talking, instead of just health and fitness, we're actually going to be talking about the upper daily limit on protein consumption. This is one that I love to talk with people about. I get tons of questions on it. And the reason is that there is no one answer. So if someone gives you like, this is exactly how much protein you should eat per day, like the US government says, well, men should eat 56 grams per day and women should eat 46 grams per day. And they don't leave, like, what about, well, if you're a male and you're 140 pounds and you're a male and you're 240 pounds and neither one is overweight necessarily or underweight, are they supposed to eat 56 grams each day for a male and 46 for a female? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? So what we're going to do is we're actually going to teach you today how to find your own daily protein consumption, and then also tell you, hey, what would the upper limit be where you may start to sacrifice health in the long term? So let's dive into this show. The first thing we want to understand is there's basically three main ways of looking at protein consumption. And why would you want to even care about protein in the first place? Well, protein is really what the body needs in order to survive. And that's because protein is going to have some fat in it, most likely. It's going to have a little bit, depends on, it could have a lot, depending on the cut of that particular meat. And even, again, vegan-based proteins, if we look at what's a plant-based protein, well, if you're saying chickpeas and beans and legumes and lentils and dal, well, they're naturally going to have some fat in them either way. And they're also, those forms are going to have carbs as well. But then if we look at, well, can protein act as a carbohydrate? The answer is yes, it can. So if you're only consuming protein, that's why, especially if it's high amounts, people consume, for the most part, I've done whole shows in this, so I won't chat about it today, but people who consume a lot of protein are not on a keto diet. And that's one of the biggest misnomers, because protein can be broken down from those amino acids and actually used as carbohydrates, as fuel. I've got a whole show on that. Certainly, we can talk about that again in the future if more questions come up. So protein is just simply crucial to the human body. You don't need to overdo it, but it's what allows you to essentially rebuild you. So all of the tissue, when I say tissue, I mean organs and skin and everything else in your body, right? It's going to be built from proteins. So the proteins, whether it be, let's say, lentils or whether it be from fish, those things break down to amino acids, those individual amino acids, whether it's multiple, part of a chain, or individual amino acids like leucine, valine, isoleucine, like we've talked about before, the branched chain amino acids, well, they're going to be helping you recover from workouts or injuries or just, again, your immune system and rebuilding your overall health. And for children, they're obviously helping them to grow. So protein is one of the crucial macros. There's fat, there's carbs, there's protein. But if you can only get one, you really want to get protein because it's going to enable you to do so much more. Now, the problem is if you only get protein, it's not healthy. It's not good for the body in the long run. Especially one of those is the kidneys. Again, people will always give pushback on that, but they're very much so. There is, when you only take in lean protein, there can be real health ramifications. Chatted about this again before in the past. Won't go too deep on it today, but just one caveat before we start to get into your protein. The more protein you consume, the more water you have to consume to just do it safely overall. All right, well, let's find out how to figure out what a safe protein consumption is, because we know that it's so important in order for us to be able to get on a daily basis. Daily being the key. You don't want protein one day and then you go 3 or 4 days without it, and then you put it back in, 3 more days later. So let's look at it. The typical, again, I told you the US government's look, 56 grams for men, 46 for women. It's so arbitrary, right? It's really, really arbitrary. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a little bit more sense of this. So when, for most personal trainers or exercise physiologists will know, athletic trainers will know, nutritionists, you look at typically 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And, that starts to get confusing for people. But it doesn't have to be. So let's figure this out right now. So if you weigh, I like to use 160 pounds. Let's use 150 pounds today, right? So let's just do a different number. You weigh 150 pounds. Let's divide that by 2.2. All right. So pounds to kilograms. All right. So that 150 pound person weighs 68 kilos, about 68 kilos. All right. So now we're just going to press the times symbol, right? Times 0.8. And so this 150 pound person is going to need 54 grams of protein per day. That's the minimum, right? The minimum is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. Take your body weight in pounds, divide it by 2.2. multiply by 0.8. There you have it. All right. So that's how you figure that out. That's super easy. I give all of my private wellness clients a much simpler way to do it. And here's what it is. Take your body weight in pounds. I actually have a lot of international clients that use kilos. I've been using kilos for 20 years just because of weightlifting and exercise and all that. But, it's not challenging, right? Just 2.2. That's the conversion. So pounds divided by 2.2, you've got your kilos. Kilos times 2.2, you've got your pounds, right? So very, very simple. But in pounds, all you have to do is just take half your body weight, and that's the number of grams you want to eat per day if you're an active individual. So I ask my clients to do at least 10,000 steps per day. I ask them to get in 2 minimum weight workouts per week. I ask them to eat about half their body weight in protein per day. If it's a little less, that's okay, right? So this 150 pound person, and I said they got about 54 grams of protein or so per day. Well, in my scenario, it's 75. All right. So I have them at about 75 grams of protein per day. And that is because the people I work with, I really want them to do at least 2 weight training workouts per day. I want them to be more active, getting their 10,000 steps. Like, I'm just getting them to have a more active lifestyle. They might be doing some sauna. So there's going to be more repair needed. And also, I know that if I get a little bit more protein in their diet, what does it do? Well, it keeps them satiated, because I have a podcast again. If you're hungry within 90 minutes of eating, you most likely didn't get enough fiber and protein, okay? So it stabilizes blood sugar, so important for the body. So all I do is I just up that to half their body weight. Very, very simple. Very, very simple. And that's what I think most people could benefit from. And it's still under the upper limits typically, which I'm going to go over next, okay? So that's another scenario. The next one is this. So we've got the conventional medicine or conventional government, never typically take all of that with a very large grain of salt. Then we get a little bit more technical, 0.8 per gram of kilograms for your body weight, or take 50% of your body weight in pounds if you're active. And if you're not active, well, we want to get you active, and then that'll be absolutely worth it. All right, so the next one is getting even a little bit more scientific and based on longevity principles. So what do you do? Well, you need to find out how many calories you consume on a daily basis. Let's say that you eat 2,000 calories a day. Okay, great. So 2,000 calories a day, that allows you to maintain your weight. Okay, fantastic. So what do? Well, we take up to, but not more than, 20% of those calories for the day from protein. So there is good research. Please don't overlook it. It's important. Again, it really is. I know that it's not the best for the body transformation community, and I understand it. But body transformation, I hope that you're seeing this. And I will do a show on it later, because I think it's very, very important, especially for a lot of men who are choosing to use testosterone replacement therapy, steroids, and they are adding more and more muscle and consuming more and more protein and less carbs. You just see all of these, unfortunately, people dying in their mid-50s. And it's not 1 or 2. It is, unfortunately, a very large number. And I don't want to see that. Because here's the thing. It's a trade-off. And if the trade-off is your life, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. But I'll do a separate show on that. Everyone is here to live their own life. And I'm not here to judge. I actually work with many of those people, and I try to help them to the best of my ability maintain health, doing everything else right. Okay, but anyway, so here's the thing. 2,000 calories a day, 20% of 2,000 calories is 400. Okay, so 400 divided by the calories, and it's basically, if I haven't gone over this before, which I have, it's fat equals 9 calories per gram. Carbohydrates and protein equals 4 calories, okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to say 400 calories divided by 4, easy math, right, is 100 grams of protein per day, right? So this is an even more scientific way of calculating. Now you might say, well, I weigh 150 pounds and I'm using X, Y, Z as the multiple. So I've done a separate show on this, but most people, when you want to find out how many calories you should be eating per day, you want to take a multiple of somewhere between about 10 and 13. Again, elite athletes, people that are hard gainers, they burn a lot of calories, whatever it might be, they might need a higher multiple. But Most people for weight loss can use a multiple around 10. And then most people for weight gain or maintenance can use a multiple of 11, 12, or 13. And, what does that look like? Well, it's just, if you weigh 150 pounds, multiply by 10, right? So that's 1,500. That might be for weight loss. If you're 150 pounds and you want to gain weight, then it would be a multiple of 13, and it'd be just under 2,000 calories. Now, you do that for 2 weeks. If you're still not gaining weight, well, then you'll, of course, increase your multiple, right? So then once you have your multiple, 1,500 calories, all right, so let's say it's 150-pound person. The ideal body weight for them is, let's say, 135. All right, so we have 1,500, and then we're just going to use their ideal body weight as their multiple, which would be 1,350. And so if it's 1,350, which we're starting to get low on calories, I don't really recommend going too much below 1,400 for many, many people. I actually would prefer them to get more active. But if they're not going to get more active, okay, then we might have to decrease a little bit, but increase their micros so their metabolism doesn't go down. Again, I don't want to go too deep in the weeds on this because we're talking about protein today, but happy to do follow-ups on that. So if we multiply for this person, times 0.2, we get 270, we divide it by 4, and we're at about 67.5 grams of protein per day. Definitely doable and possible, but this brings me to my last part of the protein equation. If you are on a low-calorie diet, or you're in a deficit, which means you're taking in less calories than you expend per day. Like the 150-pound person I just showed you, who's only taking in 1,350 calories. Well, hopefully they're definitely expending more than that. So what do? Well, in this case, instead of using 20% as your total protein, which is the best for longevity, this is where it gets just a little complicated. So stay with me here just for a moment. If you are in a caloric deficit, if you are dieting and you're putting your body in more of a catabolic state, you can take in more of an anabolic food, which is protein. Protein is the anabolic food. It helps rebuild. So in this case, when someone is on one of our weight loss-based plans, maybe it's our Fatlocity plan or something like that. Again, this is all science-based. We will often do a 40-30-30 or a 33 times 3 macro. So in this case, that 1,350 calories, multiply it by 30%, we're at 405. We're back to 100 grams of protein for this individual. Why do we do that? Here's why we do it. One, it's not forever, right? So we're talking about 12 to 16 weeks to help this person lose that 15 pounds maximum. I mean, that's only literally a pound a week. So that would not be difficult for us. And then we start to creep back up in some of those carbohydrates, and then we start to move back down, healthy carbohydrates, of course, and then we move back down on their protein for longevity-based reasons, just to get closer to the 20% of their macros. But as their body becomes more metabolically active, the truth is they're going to be able to burn more calories per day. That's always the goal. The goal is not to eat less. The goal is to burn more. That is truly what we want to be doing, because you can only eat so little, and when you eat less and less, you actually lose micronutrients, which nobody talks about, right? Like if it fits your macros, okay, well, what about micros? What if you're not getting all your vitamins and minerals that you need for the day? What if you're not getting your antioxidants, right? There's so much that goes into this. Sulfur-based amino acids for phase 2 detox. Nobody talks about it, right? I know it gets in the weeds, but still important, right? May not be important when you're 26 years old, but certainly important when you're 66, right? Certainly important when you're 46. Like these things matter. So here's the thing. If you're in a caloric deficit, you can take in more of an anabolic protein, which is the protein. That is what we're talking about here today. And that will really enable you to boost your metabolism, because protein is far more thermogenic as well, which means that for essentially every 100 calories you take in of protein, you're going to be burning off, there's all sorts of different estimates, but let's just say somewhere around, and again, it's a wild estimate, 30% or so, right? So, and for carbs and fat, you're only burning up about 6 grams or 6 calories out of that 100. So, there's a radical difference in the thermogenic effect of protein. It's more satiating. It's going to help you to not lose as much muscle when dieting, and hopefully you're getting at least 2 weight workouts per week, ideally 3 if you're dieting, to keep that muscle mass on. And the bioindividuality, which is the last part to it, is if you're a larger body type, if you're a larger constitution, if you're more of an endomorph, right, rather than a vata, here's the thing. You don't need to consume as much protein. It is easier for you to keep mass on your body. That's just the truth, right? So the person, though, who loses weight more easily, especially muscle mass or bone mass, because they're a thinner body type just genetically, that person needs a little bit more protein, but actually and technically, they really need more carbohydrates. Hard gainers, this is my last point. Nobody really needs more than 1 gram per pound of body weight, or at least lean body mass. So if you weigh 180 pounds, you don't really need more than 180 grams of protein per day, even if you're an elite athlete, even if you're a bodybuilder. You really don't. If you're having difficulty gaining weight beyond that point, and this is where I was when I was younger in my 20s, I was trying to get to 200 pounds. You know, I'm only 5'8", so getting up to 200 pounds is and again, on my frame is pretty insane without using steroids or anything like that. So here's the thing. I was able to do it, but I overconsumed protein. I was at 275 to 300 grams of protein a day. Did it work? The answer is yes. And the reason why it worked is because the protein also, though, essentially was used to for excess calories and to use as a carbohydrate as well. So I took in a lot of carbs. I took in a lot of protein. I took in a moderate amount of fat. And it did work. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I put on a lot of muscle and I lifted very heavy weights and all those things that are, and I had enough volume in there. Like all of those things are important. But the truth is this, is I would have been fine and I would have been much healthier had I taken in, again, 180, 200 grams maximum of protein. And then I used more carbohydrates since I am more of a hard gainer. It would have been easier on my digestive system. I would have had much more energy because protein consumption definitely zaps your energy to a degree because it's harder to break down. And I would have gotten the same results. I really would have. So there's multiple ways to look at this. I just don't want people to go really beyond that 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, even if they are an elite athlete, even if they are training really hard. Of course, if you're working one-on-one with a sports nutritionist, they can give you guidance for each, again, bio-individual need. But for the most part, most people, like 90%, are going to be fine with half their body weight in grams of protein per day. If you weigh 200 pounds, 100 grams of protein. You weigh 130 pounds, 165 grams of protein per day. Again, you will increase that slightly based on your total calories per day, or it will be based on if you're in a caloric deficit. That will enable you to get the best results possible, keep the muscle mass on your body, which is your metabolism, which boosts your metabolism, while not overdoing it for longevity and health-based principles. Hopefully this was helpful. Let me know what you thought. Leave them right in the comments. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And if there's any topics you'd like me to do for follow-ups, feel free to leave them in those comments as well. Take care, everyone.